Okay, thank you, Ari. Thank you. I mean, just thank you. And it's wonderful that I see faces I know here. It's so lovely to feel there's like, I'm talking with people that I know or I know a little of. And actually, just a moment before I share screen and we dive in, I want to say this, talking about like Israeli art under quarantine or during the pandemic is a very strange thing, because usually when people, me included, talk about art, it's usually in a perspective of time. And here it's literally talking about things that are happening now. This talk I gave twice until now, and it's different again today because things are shifting and changing. So it's very exciting to share this with you and kind of look together at literally what's happening these days. And I'm just taking us to, okay. I'll just say, if you have questions while I'm talking, just jot them down in the chat. I won't see it while I'm talking because I can't multitask in that way, but then I can return to them at the end. This session, I'll be talking for about 50 minutes to an hour, and then we'll open for some questions. And Ari, or if anything, or you know what, even Steve, if you see something, I don't know, I'm saying and you can't see the image or something needs to be said, just interrupt me, like unmute yourself and interrupt me if something is going on that I'm not seeing. So we're starting here with something that I'm guessing you've seen also happening in the US with the Instagram challenge of people recreating art as museums were closing down, and we're talking about already in March. And this happened in Israel too. And before we dive into things that are unique to the scene here, I kind of wanted to show how things that were happening in the world, especially when our lives moved online, were happening here too. So you can see here this image by the painter Yochanan Simon, Shabbat the Kibbutz from 1947, and the recreation, it's actually a very beautiful recreation of it in a Tel Avivi home. And it's interesting, even if you see the shirt, like, and this feel of Shabbat, the head cover of the woman, so it looks like a young couple, possibly religious, maybe not, but a beautiful recreation indoors of this work. And another two examples, again, of works that are hanging in the Tel Aviv Museum of Art. One here of Chagall, the name of this work is Solitude. In Hebrew, solitude is bdidut, and it's the same root as bidud, which is isolation or quarantine. So it's all the same word. It also sits on the same root of alone, levad, okay? Levad or badad, and bidud is quarantine. So all of this kind of solitude, and you can see here the recreation with this girl in her garden. You can see, I mean, even this tiny little unicorn over here instead of the goat. And I must say, one of my favorites, which to me is very like the disparity of like how does someone recreate this Nahum Gutman afternoon rest with cleaning products, but still somehow, if you look at this green thing here and over here, and the woman becomes this cleaning product. I mean, just something very, very beautiful and very sparse. I personally love those very creative ones. Another thing that was happening here, as was in most of the world, were virtual tours of exhibitions. We're not going to go into a virtual tour of this one, but again, it was people or museums and galleries trying to figure out, okay, how do we handle the fact that people can't go into a museum? So virtual tours, which personally I find boring and annoying, so we're not going to do that. And just to give a kind of quick timeline, by the way, creating a timeline or finding a clear timeline was a nightmare because it's such a mess. Like no one is there's no clear somewhere you can find a timeline, but this kind of gives an idea. By March 16th, we were in total quarantine with very strict limitations. And by May 5th, we were kind of outside of quarantine. Now it's mainly social distancing and masks and a lot of confusion. But the major chunk of quarantine time was from mid-March until the beginning of May. Okay, so we have that kind of time frame. And I think it's important because we'll see the speed at which things happened in the way artists responded. And the first thing I want to show you is this Facebook page called Tarbut Bimei Corona, Culture in Days of Corona, a play on the book Love in Days of Cholera. And if you look here, the group was created on March 12th. It's now the major kind of online location of everything cultural that is going on now. That's a very, very early creation date if you think that only on March 16th we all went into quarantine. And actually we'll talk a little more about that and who founded or created this page and how that influenced what happened here. Another project that happened at that time and kind of marked a lot of the trying to come to terms with what was going on is this Corona fashion kind of editorial by Boutique Shawarma. That's Boutique Shawarma is an art project by Stav Porges, and we'll get back at the end, we'll talk about her a little more. Working here with Albina Chizik from Bini Bouquet, who works with flowers, and since all weddings were canceled, she was left with too many flowers, and she does flower designs, and they created this kind of take on what it is to be with masks, but in a totally different way. You can also see not really social distancing here. It's all kind of still the beginning of what was going on, and we'll get back to Boutique Shawarma at the end of our talk. A lot of what was happening, right, was people stuck at home. In this case of Merav Tzur, stuck at home in her kibbutz, so it's a little easier because there's a lot of nature around. And you can see this play with masks. This is just like part of her Instagram kind of daily uploading selection. And this whole idea, I mean, if you think of masks and art, those are two things that very easily go together, right? I mean, from theater to makeup, but also a painting or a painting of a person, and suddenly putting kind of covering half of the face becomes an intense thing. So alongside artists that were creating like prints and stuff like that, what I found interesting was this play with a mask as a concept, obvious, and how you can see kind of by the materials, you can learn a lot about the environment. It's either at home or somewhere in the field, right? Each one becomes this fascinating portrait of the person, some quite funny, right? And this extremely creative thing where, if you think of it, artists were stuck mostly also without jobs, without being able to kind of go teach or do their things, exhibitions, standing. I mean, my exhibition now is in Durham, still standing up because the building was closed and they couldn't take it down. So everything kind of froze, and artists found themselves on the one hand alone in the studio or at home, which is kind of how artists work very often, but without so much the exhibiting venues. And so online culture becomes that. An interesting case happened with this gallery in Tel Aviv, Roat Gallery, which started a project called Shuttle, curated by Maya Bamberger, where each of these artists were supposed to hang out in the gallery for a week to work there while the gallery is open and people can come and visit. At the end of the week, leave what they did, and then the next artist coming in is there again for a week relating to what was done before them, and the audience, the people coming, were supposed to take part in it. Now I put for you here the original invite to this exhibition, and if you look at the dates between March 22nd and March 28th, you can understand that this became impossible, right? It kind of started, and then it was like, no, the artists cannot come to the gallery and people won't come to visit them. So how does this work? And we have a beautiful thing happening, and I'm gonna take you to the website of Maya Peri, who was one of the artists that that was invited to the show and couldn't do her gallery week. And she created this website, You Are Safe. And I'm gonna show you a few things here. Hopefully this will, yeah. So this website, and one of the things I really loved about it is that it's very low tech. It's not about virtual moving through 3D spaces, but really this kind of connection between the artist as a human being stuck at home and other people. You can still go on this website and answer, but you can see the questions she asked here, right? My home is the safest place on earth. And you can answer, my home is a concept I am learning to adapt to. I sometimes forget to protect myself in order to protect others. So there's all this. Every day in this section, she wrote down, and this was the last day of this website as functioning, she wrote down how many recovered from the virus worldwide. So you can see this need to kind of put some counterweight to the constant stream of news of how many deaths, how many people sick, just by this very simple act every day, how many recovered. But one, I guess the most beautiful part of this website, you can see here, what can I draw for you? So you could write anything and send. And then she'd put up the drawing with the drawing request, right? So this would be the drawing request, and then we'd see the drawing. So I gathered for you, one moment, because we're not going to scroll through. There are dozens and dozens of drawings that she created based on people's requests, which I also sent one in. And I gathered for you just a few. She's a wonderful, I mean, her drawings are really beautiful, and you can see here just a few of them. Drawing request, making my self-esteem grow. Here the drawing request is fox in quarantine. This one, a cat and a girl against the sadness. This one, me pretending all is normal. And this one here, drawing request, it should have been my wedding day tomorrow. So this art project, which, I mean, this woman basically had her show in the gallery canceled and moved because of this pandemic, found a way to create a space where people were really sending in the request, this beautiful, very delicate interaction that captures something, especially because of the drawing requests. It captures something of what's on people's mind in a very kind of, say, delicate and accurate way. This work by Ari Tepperberg is from March 26th. It's a video work, and I'd say one of the earliest works that I dare say is iconic. And what we're gonna do, it's just under 2 minutes, so we're gonna view the full work, and then I'll say a few words about it. So, first of all, technicalities. There's no magic or Photoshop or anything. It's a mirror and a computer, right? And there are a few things I think about this that when I saw it at first really grabbed me, because March 26th, we were like extremely isolated and full on quarantine. And I think for all of us, the feeling of being confined at home and kind of having all our lives run through the screen, and this feeling that we're seeing ourselves and seeing others and this whole tightness. And Ali in this work really manages to capture something of that and create the magic of it. We're literally through the mirror also seeing all of his space, because basically other than on the side of the screen having a little kitchen and bathroom, this is the house. And kind of even thinking of the fact, you know, even now we're on Zoom and we're isolated on the one hand, and on the other hand, we're meeting people online, and we're getting a backdrop that we usually don't have. We're inside people's homes in ways that we often like weren't, you know, exposed to. Everything is very exposed. I don't know if any of you heard of the Zoom bingo. If not, I'll tell you when we end this session what that is. But in this work, really, he manages, and very early on, March 26th, to capture something of this loneliness, of this isolation, but also of the magic of it, and this idea also of the mirror and the computer. If any of you have seen or know of the show Black Mirror, it's kind of, I'd say it's a less darker version of what happens when we're confronted with a computer screen and ourselves at the same time. You can see here on the 12th to 14th of April, which was actually Passover in Israel, we had the Spiral Festival. Now, usually in Israel on Passover, there are tons of festivals all over the country. Obviously that couldn't happen. And we have here 4 people kind of founding this festival. One of them, Dr. Lior Zalmanson, is actually the person who also founded that Facebook page I mentioned. And the reason I'm mentioning him and that Facebook page is, I think one of the things that made the art scene here respond very quickly, and the fact that we have that Facebook page that started kind of gathering in all the thoughts and reports and links to stuff, is because people that were in any case kind of interested in researching the cross sections between art and culture and online and digital life were moving things forward. So Dr. Lior Zalmanson is actually a researcher, and he was also at MIT looking at digital culture and the combinations of that with art. So it's no wonder. And also Dr. Erez Mayan Shalev is also someone that deals with theater, and specifically online and digital theater, way before this whole pandemic came through. So I think there's kind of a foundation with people that are very much aware of this as a culture, rather than like trying to figure out, okay, what to do now. These people are laying some of the foundation. So there were a lot of different shows, live shows and recorded shows happening during those 2 days. Everything free, everything volunteering, nothing was, you know, this is a bunch of people creating art for the sake of art. You can see Mirror Mirror, which we just saw, had a live 15-minute version online. And what I want us to see, we're gonna see now a peep at this project called Get Better World by Chen Vilsano. And I'm gonna do it like this. Okay, this is what the festival looked like with all the shows. There was also an English version, and you could go in and sign up and choose. And we're looking at this website by Chen Vilsano, who's a fascinating, crazy, and I say crazy in the best possible way. I'm just gonna, go smaller so you can see all of it. Okay, so can you see all the bubbles appearing here as I'm moving around? That's not me or my mouse. That's how the website is designed. And you can see here, supplying the day after gifts for the world. All of our products are made from the world to the world, virus-free, best prices. You'll see in a moment that you can't actually buy anything on this website. On-time deliveries, 24/7 service support, God approved, and you can actually have a chat with God. Okay, he just said hello. So I'm just, God just asked what's up. So you can go log on that website and have a conversation. Oh, thank you, God. Okay, we'll put that away. Now you can go here to any of the categories and you can browse. And online shopping, I mean, of stuff, you know, we're all stuck at home, all looking. The thing is, you can't click on anything. So Chen Vilsano has created a kind of internet version of shopping without shopping, which makes us kind of aware. It's a weird non-consumerist situation where you can't click anything you want. And you can see if you move around the website, stuff gets really weird, which is just a fun experience. And another good example for how I'd say what was interesting to me that was happening here was that people, rather than trying to adapt their art to digital, like virtual tours and stuff like that, we're starting to create art that the language of it is the internet, playing with the fact that we're online all day, that we're purchasing stuff, but kind of not allowing us to do it like in the regular way. So for me, this is one of my favorite projects. Okay, back to, let's go back here. Okay, another amazing, ambitious, fascinating project was Bidud. Bidud is isolation or quarantine in Hebrew. And this project was a residency, each day one artist, an online residency. And I took here a quote by Tamir Ehrlich. Tamir Ehrlich and Noy Chaimovic are partner, and they created this residency, where he said where he said in an interview, the screen is the message and scrolling is the creation. And again, this touches on this beautiful idea and I'd say crazy quick adaptation of what is art when it's online? How do we handle this? And we're gonna see a couple or 3 projects from Bidud. This is right now their screen because it ended, and you can see this correlates right with the dates I was mentioning. So 16th of March, we went into quarantine, and kind of by the 29th, this was up and running, and ended on the 16th of May with all these artists. Another very interesting thing that this time did, it kind of blurred a lot of borders between different art disciplines, between writers and artists. I mean, a lot of these things were blurred. Just so you can see here what it looked like. Oh, yes. Okay, so if we go to the first week, there are the different artists. She's a painter, she's a curator and art critique, digital artist. You can see here the different, very, very different projects. And what we're gonna see are a few, 3 kind of projects that I chose for us. We're gonna see a minute or so from this video and another one. These are works by Ruth Patil. And you can see here what the title, A Premature Ballad to the End of an Epidemic. Because at this point, it was close to the quarantine being released and people sat outside, and there's something of fear also about, you know, by the time we're getting used to this quarantine and isolation, we'll be thrown back into real life, and how do we deal with that? So let's see a minute from this and then another one by her.
Why does the sun go on shining? Why does the sea rush to shore? Don't they know it's the end of the world? 'Cause you don't love me anymore. Why do the birds go on singing? Why do the stars glow above? Don't they know it's the end of the world? It ended when I lost your love.
So, I mean, if you just think of how much time we all spent at home, and how our washing machine and fridge and computer like became kind of everything we see all the time. And I'd say for most artists, at least the ones I know, we live in very small homes. It's like not a space you can actually walk through. It's usually 1 or 2 rooms and everything is very close. So she plays with this. You can see the different videos. We're not going to play all of them, right? But they each have what to say, all these different home appliances. And we'll just see a moment of this because it cracks me up. Okay, so that was it. But for me, somehow, totally sums up what I feel anyway when I watch the news at this point. And I think what I love about this is also so much humor, like with all the heaviness around, with everything going on. It's just a project full of humor. The next project we'll see also from Bidud, totally different, is by Mona Binyamin and Yael Messer. And actually, I do want to read with you what this little paragraph they wrote, because it's said so clearly and simply. So for about 3 years now, we had several failed attempts to meet due to bad timing, geographical distance, and out of sync schedules. Recently, coronavirus joined the list. In addition, we had one big failed attempt of collaborating together due to the ongoing Israeli occupation of Palestine and our reluctance to work in any frame that validates colonial power relations between us. So Yael Messer is a Jewish Israeli curator, and Mona Binyamin is a Palestinian artist, okay? Funnily enough, we found our loophole in the virtual world. In the past week, we managed to meet 3 times on Zoom, and today we are presenting our first collaboration here on the virtual platform of Bidud. Together and in the spirit of quarantine, we decided to exhibit Mona's work in progress, Moonscape, filmed and edited in her family home, which presents a new poetic geographical impossibility intertwined with virtual and extraterrestrial bureaucracy. So in this one, we're also, we're obviously not gonna see the 21-minute video. I'll also just say there's something extremely generous about this project. It's all open online to anyone. There are no passwords, there's no blocking, just people put out their art for everyone and anyone to see. We'll see a couple of minutes and then I'll explain about it.
وأنا وصغيري وعدتني أشجار كبار حكوا عنها في الجرايد والأخبار بتبيع أراضي للعمار بعيدة عن إيد الاستعمار بنفس السنة عجقبي البيت بالبالونات الحمراء عددها وفير حجمها كبير كتير.
So this whole movie is really her quest regarding, yes, buying land on the moon, including emails between her and the agency to buy real estate on the moon. And I just want you to see these lunar embassy passports. So really dealing with this whole question of being a Palestinian in Israel and kind of dreaming of faraway places, a project that really almost couldn't have taken place in a physical space and suddenly found its platform over here. The next one, the last one from this project, which we're gonna see, is this crazy work by Hila Tuni Navok. Now what you're seeing, by the way, is all the same website, right? But each artist just takes over the full layout, design, architecture of the website as part of the art. If you remember, the screen is like, it's the medium, it's the message. Again, Hila Tuni Navok touches on this whole thing of, you know, buying online. For a while here, you couldn't order anything, like the supermarkets were kind of crushing under too many orders. And if you tried to order something, it would come like 2 weeks later. Before Passover, the country was out of eggs. People were trading eggs. Literally, if you had an egg, you were a rich person. Tuni here plays with it. Again, you cannot click anything. It just plays, but and it plays with the items and how much money, and especially with people losing their jobs and losing their income, this whole thing of what do I spend, how do I spend, the constant calculation. But as you scroll, it slowly becomes, I'd say, the way an artist sees the world, shape and color and abstract. And it's this beautiful, I think really a beautiful kind of, almost an insight into her mind as an artist and how things are translated and abstracted all the way. And here it becomes very, very clear to literally little abstract paintings, but we get to see where they're, what the inspiration was, where they're generated from, and also in there, very light, very fun, very amusing, but touching on an experience that I guess all of us, or if not all of us, most of us experience, all the way to this reduction where it's just a blue line on a white empty square. Hopefully from now, if you do online shopping, you'll start seeing the website in a completely different way or possibility. So this is Bidud, and really each day something completely different. It's still online, so you know, it's endless fun, amazing content just to watch of Israeli art. We're going back, I'm just checking the time here. Okay, so as we mentioned, by the beginning mid-May, we were starting to kind of go out, and this artistic project kind of marked that going out. The name of this project was Exit Strategies, same as kind of some of the names the government gave to all the exit strategies from the quarantine. And it was artists creating works in public space. This is the map, so you could go around the city, where the idea was that the artists were creating the art in their own neighborhood. So it was in their area, in their vicinity, and you could walk around the city with this map and explore art. This is just one example of an artist that created on the floor in her neighborhood these like sacred texts, I'd say magic circles. And it's interesting here, the radius is half or full? I think radius is only half. You can now see how I don't know my math. Thank you for nodding. Okay, so I don't know the word in English for the full parameter. No, that's the, oh my God, this is embarrassing. I know the word in Hebrew, plus it's written here. But the diameter, yes? My God, okay. Of the circle was, you can see here the choice of word Daled Amot, which is actually a measurement that comes from the Mishnah, from Jewish texts, which is usually the measurement that it's said that it's polite for a person to escort a guest out of their home. The politeness is Daled Amot. Amma is the arm length. So 4 arm length is the polite distance to walk your guest when they're leaving the home. Yes, we actually have that in our Jewish text. And she uses that measurement to create these circles. There were various projects here. And an interesting thing just to note that when this project was presented, it was presented not in an open call online, but rather there was a Zoom meeting that people who wanted to take part in this project needed to attend. There was a limit of 500, so not everyone could attend, but there were 500 artists attending this, kind of in a way seeking a place and an opportunity to start going out to the public. Another thing that happened, and this is already, you can see July 2nd to 4th, is kind of galleries and all the artistic venues in Tel Aviv coming together to create a gallery weekend, to create something that will help people get out, move around, see art. Obviously under restrictions, we have restrictions of how many people can be in a space. It's about 10 and all the social distancing, but really finding a way to create this. Now, in a way, in Israel right now, we're not in quarantine. We're in a very unclear space. For those of you who were here a couple minutes before I started the session, and Ari was mentioning that I'm adding slides. So these are the images I added. So I apologize. It was like last minute, but I don't know if you've heard, there are protests around Israel. The main ones are every Saturday night, like the weekend, Motzei Shabbat in Jerusalem, and partially also in Caesarea, where the Prime Minister's private home is, and also along the bridges across the country. So if you drive, let's say, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem on Saturday evening, you'll see on most of the bridges, if not all of them, these protesters holding the black flags. It's one of the nicknames for this protest is the Black Flags protest. In Israel and in Hebrew, a black flag is kind of, I mean, it's same as you'd see in the sea, but it's kind of when you raise a black flag, you're saying something like shouldn't be passed. There's a line that shouldn't be crossed. I'm not going to go into the politics of this protest, but there is a strong kind of current of art happening in relation to the protests, and that's why I'm bringing it here, and we're going to look at that aspect. Okay, so we're seeing here one of the photos that became viral. This is from just a a week or a couple of weeks ago. Maya Ben David is the artist that kind of initiated this piece and also created these costumes. She actually, she was looking for way more women. She was looking for women in their 8th or 9th month of pregnancy. So they are actually pregnant. And you can see they have on their stomachs, here it's written, she deserves change, she deserves to imagine, she deserves hope, she deserves to be safe, he deserves a leader, and the leader here is in female tense, okay? It's a female leader, the way it's written. And this is actually in the junction in North Israel. And a lot of the things around the protests, a lot of artists are taking part, so much so that a curator, the same curator from the shuttle project I showed you, created an Instagram page called Art La Mahapecha. Mahapecha is revolution, so art of the revolution. I just want to show you, I mean, that's how prominent the art is in this demonstration. So this is the Instagram page, and it's basically just collecting all the imagery from the protests, just like uploading the imagery. The logo was created by Oren Fischer, who's a well-known artist, and you can see how prominent this is. You can see here the image that I just showed you. And what we're gonna see here are a few images by a photographer who's an artist and an activist and has been going regularly to the protests on Saturday evenings in Jerusalem and recreating pieces. I don't know if it can be actually a really nice art quiz, but this composition is based on this painting, the intervention of the Sabine women. You can see the women here intervene between the fighting people to kind of stop it, so you can see the recreation of this work. This, another one also taken in the protest in Jerusalem, raising of the second ink flag. So to dissect this, and for some of you might remind you of a different image, but actually it's based on this image now I realize I don't know the non-Hebrew date for this, but this is in 1949 when Eilat, the most southern city of Israel, then called Rashrash, was conquered, liberated, up to you to choose. And they realized, the soldiers, they realized they don't have a flag. So they took a piece of sheet and they used ink to paint the two stripes, and they took the Star of David from one of their first aid kits and put it on the flag, and this was the image captured. And this was the telegram that they sent, pass on to the government of Israel, the day of defense of Yud Aleph Adar, this is the Hebrew date, the brigades of the Negev, of the Palmach, here it's all the brigades, are giving the port of Eilat to the country of Israel, to the state of Israel. And this was a telegram that was sent to the government. And you can see here the recreation. The idea of the pink flag is raising the flag of compassion and hope. And you can see what they did. They took a very similar phrasing of this telegram, pass on to the government of Israel, the day of defense against governmental corruption, the Hebrew date, we, the brigade of women and men of citizens of Israel, submit to the government the compassion and hope back to the state of Israel. So you can see how much this is kind of on the one hand, the protest is a very serious protest. We have tens of thousands of people protesting, but the art in it is very prominent. It's an interesting thing also in terms of the art, because some people will say the artistic side is taking away from the ability to take this protest seriously. Others are saying it's actually creating the protest to what it is. I'm not going to go into it, but it's fascinating to see how prominent that is. For some of you, it might remind you of this image. So I just wanted to put it here because it is a reference. I don't think the artist that took this picture was a soldier that took this picture. I don't think he was thinking of this at the time, but it might be familiar to some of you. And another image, which I thought I'd show you first like this in case any of you recognize, again by the same artist, where the reference is from. Possibly for some of you a very known image. So after all of this, the next thing I want to share with you, and it's kind of our last before opening for questions, is this, I'd say, pretty amazing project created again by Boutique Shawarma, or her name is Stav Porges. If you remember earlier on, I showed you the woman who created kind of that project with the flowers as face mask. And this is actually one image out of 12 of a calendar that she created in collaboration. You have here the other collaborators on this work, that it's a calendar against evil eye, which I think at this point we all need to somehow banish the demons of 2020. So not a bad idea. She was actually mid creating the calendar before COVID-19, but then that happened, everything was canceled. And she kind of had to rethink this whole project, creating each image for a month based on different Jewish traditions of banishing the evil eye and summoning good luck. So I don't know how familiar you are with the garlic, but if you've ever seen homes with garlic outside, it's because it's considered a good way to banish the evil. You can see here another image that has to do all with Shabbat, with entering the Shabbat, but also with opening the skies for a new year. And another one, and again, this whole idea of pregnancy, of new life. These women are all, the three of them are in their ninth month, so a moment before. So we're actually looking at an image not with, say, you can call it either 3 or 6 humans in this image. And I want to show you, so I wasn't sure if I'd kind of show you each of the images separately, but just kind of to get an idea. And each of them has a different theme. One moment, I want to stop on one specific one. Let's see if I'll manage. Okay, so this is Stav herself, and this is her father. And you can see here the olive oil, the nails that she creates that actually almost look like chili peppers. And this, for instance, is December. So it's really a calendar that's set out to banish the evil eye out of the next year. The Head Start actually already went beyond their initial ask, and they were voted kind of pick of the stuff three weeks in the row. And if I'm not mistaken, then also Stav is with us online here. So yes, I'm exactly on time, yay. So what I want to do now is open up for questions. And the way we can do this is either, you can either write them down in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask. And I'd say this, since all of this is very, very new. I mean, it's always a fact that no questions are wrong or stupid, but here it's even more so because like I'm in the middle of asking myself questions about all of this. So I'd love it if we could share and hear your questions, whether vocally or in the chat. So, and I'm not stopping the sharing of the screen in case people will ask about specific works and I can move around, but so we'll leave it like that for at least the beginning.
Hi, so I'm back. I was called into a meeting and I listened a little bit. I may ask the questions that don't make any sense, but I figured I'd ask a few things while people are thinking about what they want to ask in the chat. You had mentioned something called Zoom Bingo, so I wanted to hear about that. And then with regard to the art program, it seems like the people who are succeeding in this environment, just as in other parts of the Zoom world, the people who can use this technology and make it work for them. What about traditional artists in Israel? How have they been doing? And then the second question is, now that things have opened up in Israel, have they opened up the museums like they're opening up? I guess New York's gonna be opening up museums next week. So are people getting back into the swing of the traditional arts in Israel?
Okay, so Zoom Bingo, traditional art and artists and museums and what's opening up, right? That's pretty challenging, that threefold question. Okay, so the Zoom Bingo, I don't remember who told me about it. I think it was actually an American friend, but basically you download, you can download online and you have like, you know, the person sleeping, the person showing only their chin, the person like, eating in front of the camera, and then you need to look at all the people and fill in what you're seeing. And if you have a bingo and you play with friends like that, you're all in on that meeting and you're all playing that bingo, and then you have on the side, like, because a lot of, you know, when these Zooms become more and more, it's kind of tedious, so you have an extra thing. Personally, I've been here I'm disclosing what I've been doing on Zooms, which was I was in search of the craziest frames, but then I found one which was so insane that I stopped because I couldn't go any further than that. Due to the privacy of the person, I will not share that image, but I'll just say there was an older man, somewhere 70 and up, and he was sitting and listening to Zoom with a huge teddy bear, huge. I have an image, so I'm not making this up, but huge teddy bear. And I print screen all the ones I find, which are really crazy. So that's my little fun game on Zoom. I recommend to all of you to play that, it's fun. As far as traditional artists, it is very challenging. I think in a way, painters have adapted to online media in various ways. Sculptors, it's always more challenging. And I think especially people doing installation art or community-based art, it's even more challenging. I myself, I was in that situation. I'm actually on September 1st going to Arad, to a southern city in Israel for a 3-week residency to create a project there. So now that things are opening, there's space to do. In terms of budget and money, I'd say we're in Israel, somehow culture tends to be the last on the list. And the casualness with which things can be canceled is infuriating and very difficult. So we've been feeling that very much. There was one thing which was interesting to see. There's a thing called Sal Tarbut. It's like culture basket. It's a bad name in English, but in Hebrew it works a little better. That brings art all across Israel to schools. Artists go and present to kids and teenagers and talk about their arts, and that's fine arts and theater and music and all of that. And they were about to cancel that program. There was a lot of pressure and quite an outcry about that, and that decision was reversed. But yeah, there's basically a feeling that it's the last thing that anyone considers. The museums have opened, and so have the galleries, all under a variety of restrictions. but they are open now and looking for various ways to accommodate numbers and stuff like that. Yeah, but I'd say that the adaptations to me are quite fascinating, whether it's through online stuff or just how people are making art. So hope that answers.
Has a new artist now emerged because of this technology, or has a traditional artist now taken this technology to the new level that you say, wow, that has impressed you?
I don't know if things are as extreme as a new artist appears, or like, I don't think things are so extreme. I do think that some artists shined. It was more a time also for performers, photographers, right? This photographer I showed you that was doing, the protest works, I didn't hear of him before this, and now I do. And I think also, actually, this project by Stav Polgas is a very good example. First of all, because of where she comes from and this idea of wanting arts, like not creating a distinction between fine arts and design and fashion and people. She does all the nail art. And this idea of wanting art to be something that is for everyone, and not shying away from the combination of different artists, and also from kind of collaborating with other people. And I think there's a reason this project was picked in Head Start, and there's a reason it became like it sold out, I'd say, and it's because it touches on something that is it's a very clear sentiment and need, and it plays with this idea of like letting go of some kind of concept of fine art. I think also for many artists, they didn't, like I can say about myself, I was doing more home improvement, DIY, learning how to grow plants at home, and not like running into, yeah, this is all new. I used to be a cacti killer, and now like I live in a jungle. But I wouldn't say I can't think of any extreme. I'd say the creators of Bidud, of that project, definitely put themselves on the map with that project, from maybe not being so well known, being one of the major art projects. But I think it's also still a little early to say kind of these are the people.
Yeah. And I missed it, but is there a reason in these images that they have to have the long nails? I kind of find that very unpleasant. Everything else is creative. I don't get the long nails. So if you spoke about it, you can skip it. If you haven't, please try to.
No, I haven't, and that's beautiful. And even though Stav is here, I'm gonna answer that. And Stav, I can see you. So if there's something you want to add after I say, then just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. First of all, Stav comes, like one of her crafts is creating nail art. And in the world of fine arts, there's very often, I'd say, this snobbery of what is considered high art, fine arts, worthy of the museum, and what is outside, what is low arts, what doesn't belong there. So first of all, the nail to her is a canvas of creation, and it's kind of, and this started also in her years in Bezalel, kind of defying this this distinction between high and low arts and who belongs and what belongs. So that's one thing about it. Even the name that kind of she puts her productions under, boutique shawarma. So boutique, we think of a kind of upscale, very kind of beautiful, pristine place. And then shawarma, for those of you who don't know, is that like meat. I don't know how to say shawarma in English, but it's the combination of those two. A very interesting thing that came up also when working on this calendar is that actually in Judaism, the nails have a whole additional mystical side to them. They're considered an extension of our body, but when we cut them, actually there are various rituals that, according to Jewish tradition, and since I grew up religious, I was actually brought up with when the nails were cut, we weren't allowed to throw them in the trash. They go in the toilet and they're flushed, thinking that they'll go to the sea because they're considered an extension of our body. And if we take it even further with the nails and the extension, it's this feminine kind of mark of power, but also an extremely crazy sculptural aspect of elongating the body. So all of these, I think then it comes to a question of taste and aesthetics, because I find them beautiful and fascinating. And I think what also happens is that the eyes are drawn there very, very clearly, and our hands have power to them. So all of that. Stav, wave at me if you wanna add. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
So so Stav joined us. Can you say something more so I can see you? I lost you.
Hey everyone. Just want to say hello, and I really like what you said. Sorry for I just came back from running, but I really want to hear everything you said, and I agree about everything. And when we start to work on the calendar, I actually thought we want to do it in a completely different way. And I really like to work with the exist and ask like, what is now, what is happening around me. And I felt really strong that we have really bad energy in Israel and all around the world, but I can talk specific at my place. And I asked Bini and Ella is the photographer and Bini is the flower artist, that maybe we will change the concept and we'll try together to remove the eye evil with consider the nails that I want to do and the people that I like to put inside the shooting. And I think that you explain it amazing in the way that you talk about the nails and what I'm doing. So thank you very much. It was really interesting. And if you want to find the calendar, the Head Start is open only for 2 more hours, and then we close it. Yes, that's the last day of the Head Start. So really excited about it. So I hope that 2021 will be better than 2020 for all of us.
Amen to that. And before we close, I'll put the Head Start in the chat in case any of you wanna go to it. So thanks, Stav. And I can see here, another question. Are there other Israeli initiated collaborative art projects online that you have learned about? There are, first of all, maybe I'll stop sharing because I want to see all of you. I'm like lost here in all the Zoom option screens. Here it is. Okay. First of all, there are a lot of initiatives through poets and performers and theater people. There are tons. There are a lot. I tried to narrow it down to the fine arts, even though it's a lot of blurred stuff. It's almost endless. Like, I couldn't follow everything that was happening. So we got here a taste. It's kind of like, it felt like an explosion of creativity. Sometimes for me, it was too much. Like there's like, I would just like close my screen. I cannot have another moment of anything more. And I'm sure there's stuff that I missed. I'll say that. I'm sure there is. I'm also less, I'd say I'm less versed in what's happening in the poetry and music world. And there was a lot going on there. Obviously, a lot of music videos, which we've been experiencing. So what I chose for you was more within the fine arts world. We have a few more minutes, so I just want to see if any of you have more questions. And if not, I'll share my question.
I assume, has anybody been successful in monetizing their art
Uh,
that they've
well,
made so far?
Well, I'd say Stav, who we just spoke with, is possibly the best example with that Head Start project, which has really, it's pretty amazing in a time where everyone is, you know, not spending because many people don't have income. So that's the one I know of. Other than that, and everything I showed you was done voluntarily out of the sheer need to create and share and do. We're very low on budgets here. I mean, the Tel Aviv one with the exit strategies, the artists that participated did receive a very small amount of money. I think it's interesting also because artists, even on a day-to-day basis, very often don't make money from their art, but actually the track of career and income are like either parallel lines that never meet or they zigzag. And artists, you know, from being a waiter to being a teacher to being whatever, so that they can bring in money and spend it on making their art, is true all over the world, and I'd say in Israel it's even more extreme. So sadly, artists here are very, very used to doing stuff with no one paying them. I mean, even now the residency I'm going to, which is very prestigious, and I'm getting like curatorial advice, and I'm doing this whole project for 3 weeks, and I get a house and a studio, but that's it. Like, there's no pay, and that's normal. Like, I come to work for 3 weeks and I get various things, and it's very normal. There is now a new open call for a residency in Tel Aviv that is with pay, and it's so rare that, like, for the few spots that open, the number of people that are going to apply, it's going to be something like 500 people for 5 spots. But yeah, in terms of money, it's similar with artists all around the world, even though here it's a little more extreme. Are there close-up pictures of the nail art that we can see? I believe that if you go to Stav's Instagram, then there you can see more. I'm doing a couple things here. First of all, how do I send a chat to everyone here? Okay, so first of all, I'm putting here in the chat the Head Start link.
You can also email me all the links, and I'll email everybody.
I'll do that too. And through there, you can see Stav's name and kind of follow her on Instagram and see what she does. It's really fascinating. I didn't go into it, but it touches also a lot on issues of Ashkenazi and Mizrahi culture in Israel. For those of you who aren't familiar with the terms, Ashkenazi Jews, descendant of Eastern European countries, Mizrahi Jews, descendant of Muslim and Arab countries. So a lot of what she does touches on those issues in Israel. So definitely someone to follow if she caught your eye. Anything else? Okay, so maybe as we end, I'll share with you one of the questions that are, to me, like kind of in my mind, is kind of this relationship between online art and what's happening in real life, and will one of them become more redundant, and where will resources go? And I think, Ari, one of the questions you asked about like new artists or artists that have shifted and changed, I think to me that possibly will receive an answer in a few years from now. Because I think this time, spending time at home and so much alone, and so many of us having to rethink what we took for granted about everything, I think it's affecting everyone, and definitely will affect also the artists and the art world. I can see it on myself and what I'm aiming to do now and the way I'm thinking about my work. But I think that I'm curious to see, and I believe that we'll see the effects of it in the coming years, and it's just too early to say. So those are the questions that are kind of in my mind about all of this.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being so available to us and to keeping us so up to date as to what's going on in Israel. We really, I don't know about people who are in the audience right now, people who will be listening to us. We never hear this stuff. We hear about the political stuff. We hear a little bit about the protests. I don't think we understand what's really going on in Israel. I've spoken to people on the right and left, even in Israel, they have different perspectives. So it's nice to have you as our eyes on culture in Israel and to show us all what's going on. And it makes for a richer understanding of Israel and the complexity of where you live and where we're all connected to. So thank you. And we hope to have you back. Another program. Good luck in Arad. Keep cool there. I think it's a little warm, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's the desert. It's going to be hot.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll be in touch. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Shirel. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Raphael. Good to see you. And Dahlia Podwall and Marcy and Shira Rubin. Nice to meet you. Victor Edinger. It's a nice fish. One day you have to smile, and then Shirel probably took a picture of it for her.
If I was able to multitask, I would totally take a picture.
Yeah, that's yeah. Hey, Victor, you have to email me what that fish is so I can email to Shirel. Okay.
You're muted, Victor. I can't.
Sorry,
hear
you get the what? Yeah, I unmuted you.
I said that I saw it in the museum, and I don't remember what museum it was, and I made it for a background.
Oh, I see. So it's not really on your wall. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Now it's a virtual background. Oh, well, I've been having a lot of fun with those too.
Yeah, I think when Steve Sholkoff appears, I'm gonna put pictures of women wearing really long nails behind him in the future. Just control his background. I'll figure it out. Beverly Jacobs, one of our artists, is good to see you on an art program.
Ari, I'll send you an email with links.
Yeah. Please do.
So that
and
you
all
can
the artists. Okay.
On.
Okay, everybody. Gotta go back to work.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.